Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This speech is entitled The Origin of Man. Before I started my online research, I came with the idea that I should include the biblical aspect or the story or the myth of how man came to existence according to the Bible. But after my research, I came with the conclusion that there are three aspects to look at when studying the origin of man. And those three aspects are: 1, the biblical aspect; 2, the anthropological, particularly the biological aspect; and 3, the geographical aspect. In the biblical aspect, I will be sourcing out from 2 different religions, which means 2 different scriptures or holy scriptures, which are the Holy Bible of Christianity and Holy Quran of the Muslim or Islam belief. However, on the anthropological, particularly on the biological aspect, I will be sourcing out based on the scientific study of researchers and scientists or professors. And finally, in the geographical aspects, I will be sourcing out from different sources, but this will answer the question, where or which part of the world did man originate? Given that preface, I will now proceed. I hope you can all forgive me for the unnecessary noises, such as horns and vehicular noises, because I am living beside the street. I will begin with the biblical aspect, particularly in the Christianity. It is stated under the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verses 26 and 28, and I read, "Then God said, let us make humankind in our image, according to our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all wild animals on earth, and over every creeping that creeps upon the earth." So God created humankind in His image. In the image of God He created them. Male and female He created them. God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over all other living things on the earth." Unquote. This biblical scripture, or particularly in the Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 to 28, this does not only provide the myth of how man came to existence or of how men came to living, but this also provides why men or humans are dominate than other species on earth. But I said that this is based on Christianity, not only because of the Roman Catholic Church, but also because it is something that sub-Christianity religions here in this country, such as Church of Christ or Iglesia ni Cristo and Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or what we call Mormons, agreed upon. Now that I have established the Christianity's belief of the origin of man, I will now proceed to the Muslim belief of the origin of man. According to a friend of mine who happens to be a Muslim, but also according to an article online that I have read, there are similarities and differences with the Holy Bible on one hand and the Holy Quran on the other hand. The similarity is that both men was made out of mud, which God breathed on, and then He created it to be a man. The difference is that the woman in the Muslim belief does not have a name, meaning to say the Holy Quran does not provide a name for the woman. It only described the woman as a mate that God created, or Allah created in this case, for to be a mate or to be a partner of the man, which we call Adam. But despite this, most Muslims call her Hawa. And that is where, or that is how, man came to existence according to the Muslim belief. Now that I have already established the biblical aspect of the origin of man, I will now proceed to the anthropological, particularly on the biological aspect of where man originated. According to an article published by the Khan Academy, I will be citing the references in this speech. Based on the anthropological and archaeological evidences, hominids diverged from primates somewhere between 2.5 to 4 million years ago. This statement of the Khan Academy is supported by Dr. Rick Potts, because according to his article, one of the earliest defining human characteristics, which is bipedalism. Bipedalism, by the way, means being able to walk on 2 feet. According to him, it evolved around 4 million years ago. This is also supported by an article published in the scientificamerican.com entitled "The Face of Earliest Human Ancestor Revealed." It is said that, quote, Australopithecus Affarensis is the oldest and unequivocal hominin, with some fossils dating back as far as 4.2 million years ago. For years, it has occupied a key position in the family tree as the lineal ancestor of Australopithecus Affarensis, which is widely viewed as the ancestor of all our own genus Homo, unquote. These 3 sources, though they may slightly differ from one another in terms of timeline, they agreed in one thing, and that thing is that the earliest human ancestor lived in approximately 4 million years ago. But what came after Australopithecus Affarensis? Remember, it is said that Australopithecus Affarensis is the oldest human ancestor. Eventually, humans evolved into the modern humans that we are today, the Homo sapiens. But subsequently, after the reign of the species Australopithecus, which means ape, the species Homo, or man, was born. This is the time where man really came into existence, or at least the term man came to existence. And this genus, which is Homo, includes the Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and us, the modern humans, the Homo sapiens. According to Professor Philip Wright-Meir, he is a professor in the State University of New York, Homo habilis is, quote, a human ancestor that lived in Africa around 2.4 to 1.5 million years ago. The fossilized remains of Homo habilis were found in 1959 to 1960 in Tanzania, Africa, unquote. They were named Homo habilis because according or in the looks of their bone structure or their skeletal system, their human-like feet and their human-like hands, it seems to them that based on that, this species is able to handle things with precision. By the way, Homo habilis means handyman. So there we are. But this claim that these creatures are able to grasp or handle things with precision is further reinforced when they found primitive tools along with the remains. But despite Homo habilis being the first one to roam the earth, they were not the first one to be discovered. The first one to be discovered in the Homo genus is the Homo erectus, which is found in 1891 by Dr. Eugene Dubois in Indonesia. At first, he named it Pithecanthropus erectus, but it was eventually named Australopithecus Homo erectus. It is said that Homo erectus lived between 1.89 million to 110,000 years ago. This human ancestor, although they are capable of climbing trees, it is said that this species, Homo erectus, has the smallest human brain among all Homo genus. After Homo erectus, Homo sapiens is the next most relevant Homo genus. But as a Filipino, I must include this, and I am very proud because of this discovery. Recently, there was a new Homo genus species found in the Philippines, particularly in the land of Luzon. According to the National Geographic, this small-bodied hominin called Homoluzenensis, discovered by Professor Armand Mijares, lived between 50,000 to 65,000 years ago in the island of Luzon, Philippines. Homo sapiens are the earliest modern human species, or the most recent at least. It is said that they evolved from their predecessor sometime between 200,000 to 300,000 years ago. And they developed the capability or the ability of language around 50,000 years ago. And this is how the Homo, or term man, came to existence, from being Australopithecus on one hand, which means ape, into being a Homo on the other hand, which means man. Now that we have established the first biblical aspect, and number two, the anthropological, particularly the biological aspect of the origin of man, I will now proceed to the geographical aspect. According to the Khan Academy, Homo sapiens began migrating from African continent, populating Asia and Europe, and they also reached Australian continent through canoes, sometime between 35,000 to 65,000 years ago. And there are several evidences to prove this. I have already said earlier that Australopithecus Affarensis is found in Africa. And according to the according to the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History, the primate eventually evolved into the Australopithecus Affarensis sometime between 3.85 million to 2.95 million years ago. It is said that this human ancestor, the Australopithecus Affarensis, is one of the longest living human species which resided in the eastern part of Africa, such as Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania. Subsequently, it once again evolved, meaning to say the Australopithecus Affarensis again evolved into Australopithecus africanus, a primate that lived between 2.5 to 1.9 million years ago. Remains of this primate, the Australopithecus africanus, particularly taong child, was discovered in Africa in 1924 by Professor Raymond Dart. This claim that man originated from Africa in terms of geographical aspect is further supported by the Khan Academy, where they said, quote, "The first modern human began moving outside of Africa starting about 70,000 to 100,000 years ago," unquote. This was also reinforced by Dr. Rick Potts, saying in his article that, quote, "Early humans first migrated out of Africa into Asia probably 2 million and 1.8 million years ago. They entered Europe somewhat later between 1.5 million and 1 million years ago. And species of modern humans populated many parts of the world much later. For instance, people first came to Australia probably within the past 60,000 years, and to the Americans within the past 30,000 years or so," unquote. Now there we are. We have already tackled the biblical aspect, which I sourced from two different religions here in the Philippines, which is the Christianity and Islam. We've also established the anthropological, particularly the biological aspect of the human origin, and now I have just finished discussing about the geographical aspect of the human origin. But let us not forget that we are humans. We are the highest form of animal. And we are the highest form of animal. We are the dominion species because of our ability to think and to be rational. And because of our ability to think, we believe in the higher being above us, which other people call God. So I beg to you that let us use this characteristic of being rational and our belief of God and pray to Him the words of Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago. God, preserve this country and begin with me. Thank you all for listening. God bless you, and God bless the Philippines.